And we're live.
High five. All
Oh
right.
man. Yeah.
Kind of live. I'm kind of. I think I slept about 3 hours.
Well, there's a difference between live and lively.
All right. We'll go with. I'm certainly not lively. I hope to get lively as we talk about uh, Xbox. Maybe it won't be
Yeah.
so lively.
Yeah. It sounds like Xbox is going to be an incredibly lively discussion.
I mean, I've probably played 3 games on the system.
Yeah. So I was just right now going through the Metacritic list of the top 100 games, and there are only two that I've actually ever touched, and they weren't on the Xbox. And those were Psychonauts, which was part of a humble bundle, I believe. So I played that for 15 minutes on PC and found the colors and audio and stuff so garish that I just couldn't get into it at all.
Not looking
and
good for Xbox.
and the other one was Metal Gear Solid 2, which I played on its original system, the PS2.
So have you never played an Xbox? Like you've never held that enormous controller in your hand? You've never
No,
like really? Wow. I I'm trying to remember because so at the time when it came out, it was kind of still like it was like a super cool to own system. I feel like I remember like I don't know what kind of people you hung out with at the time, but for me it was like the what was even out? I think PlayStation 2, right?
yeah,
And
PlayStation
GameCube.
2 would have been it.
Yeah, and like those, like obviously GameCube was for kids. PlayStation 2 was for all the nerds that played with their Final Fantasy and their whatever Metal Gear. Kind of like I mean, still like the cool kids played PlayStation 2, but Xbox was like, man, this has Halo. It's so cool. Look at these awesome controllers. There's kind of a little bit of that, and so I never personally owned an Xbox when it was popular. I did pick up one, I think for free actually, after the fact. But at the time, I basically just played whatever games everyone else was playing, just because I was in college. You know, you'd go and hang out with your friends, and everyone was so into Halo and whatever at the time.
Yeah.
And so it's honestly like for me to call out my favorite Xbox game seems kind of silly, but I did play Halo. I did play. There was, I think, Dead or Alive 3 was out at the time, and then there was like that beach volleyball thing or whatever. I'm just trying to actually remember what else was even like big at the time. You said you were looking at a top 100 games list. Like what else
Yeah.
was? Well, like
You
what are
know,
the
to
top 10? I don't even really remember the system.
there's actually some good variety
Hmm.
in the titles, and there's a lot that I've heard of, and there's even some that I've bought and have intended on playing on PC. So number
Hmm.
one is Halo,
Yeah, yeah,
and then there's the Grand Theft Auto double pack, which
yeah,
is
yeah.
Liberty City and Vice City.
Okay.
Halo 2, Ninja Gaiden Black, Tom
Yeah,
Clancy's Splinter Cell.
I remember when they announced they were going to make Ninja Gaiden games for the system, and everyone was like, "What?" Because it was this like they were wondering if all the Japanese developers would like part ways with Sony or whatever.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that was it. Started with Tecmo, and I don't know if it ever really got any momentum.
No, not a whole lot. It was largely an American system.
Yeah.
So Splinter Cell, Burnout 3, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Like it seems like there was a good number of BioWare
Mm.
support. More Splinter Cell, Tony Hawk.
I mean, to be
More.
fair, a lot of these were, I think, multi-platform too at the
Yeah,
time. Yeah,
yeah, they were.
if not practically all of them. I mean, Halo certainly wasn't.
No, Halo was definitely an exclusive. Yeah, I'm not seeing an exclusivity sticker on anything here other than Halo.
Right. I remember.
Um, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I remember Jet Set Radio. They had a exclusive title for Xbox. I don't know what system the first game was on. I remember it came out on Dreamcast, and I don't know if that was the very first one or if there was something that came out before that. But me and a couple colleagues really liked that game, and
Mm.
then they came out with an Xbox one. The Xbox one was cool. Like I wouldn't. I actually do think I like the Dreamcast one more. But since we're talking about Xbox, I could throw that game out there too, I guess. So
Yeah,
for me, it would have to be that one and Halo, I guess. Out of the
right.
4 games I've played, 5 games.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I mean the other one that we were hoping to get to because we have more memories of is GameCube,
Right.
um, and Well, I mean, I guess we already did an episode on the PlayStation 2, and like if you check out the sales, they're a little bit tainted because PlayStation 2 sales are being recorded even as late as 2011, whereas Xbox sales, they stopped tracking it in 2006.
Hmm.
But like PS2 had over 150 million units sold, whereas Xbox had around 24 million.
Right. Yeah. 24.
And
Wow, that's pretty impressive, really. I mean, the original Nintendo, the Super Nintendo was like 40, right?
well, that's actually what's surprising me because the GameCube only had 22 million.
I remember they were really struggling to sell GameCubes, and part of it was like, I mean, the Nintendo 64 also didn't do so well. I mean, I think it did pretty decently in the
Mhm.
States, but not in Japan. And then, like, I don't know, it was another Nintendo system that wasn't mainstream. I remember at the time being surprised how little it was selling even. Um, I wonder actually, is that global sales?
Yeah,
Yeah. So think about it. I mean, I imagine probably half of those were in Japan, right? And
yeah.
X,
Whereas it was the inverse with Xbox. Like almost nothing was in
yeah.
Japan.
And so Xbox significantly outsold GameCube in the States then, right? Or in the West, I'll say.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. That's, I mean, I could name probably 10 GameCube games I really liked, and have a lot more experience with that system. Yeah.
but yeah, that seems interesting to me because where you were saying it was kind of the cool thing to have. Like I didn't have that memory because I was in the PlayStation crowd,
Mhm.
but
I was too. I just my friends and stuff in
yeah,
college
yeah,
were
yeah.
very much Xbox people.
Well, that's what's starting to come back to me a little bit. Is that, yeah, I did have some friends who were into Xbox, and I remember I had one roommate with a GameCube, and I think that was the only person I knew that had a GameCube until I got one.
Right. Yep. Yep. It was definitely an alternative system. Like it was kind of like Dreamcast. I think it was like if you had the
Yeah,
GameCube, you were probably that one person, right?
yeah. They're the same generation. So Dreamcast, PS2, GameCube, and Xbox. It's all the same generation, and so GameCube, they definitely came last in the war and only had 9.13 million.
Wow. In the West, you mean that? So
Period.
GameCube sold less than Dreamcast.
No, no, no. That's Dreamcast that had the
Oh,
9.13
okay,
period.
okay, okay,
So
okay, okay, okay.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't really remember it that way. I mean, I never really cared about generations or whatever, but like
yeah,
Dreamcast, of course, was like the first new system of that batch generation, I guess. But like it came out, and I feel like they shut it down before the other systems even really started to gain momentum, right?
yeah,
It doesn't
yeah.
really feel like it was competing at the same time.
Like I'm trying to see. Yeah, they basically. Yeah, Dreamcast was the first to market. They
Mm.
were released in '98
Yep,
in Japan,
yep.
'99 in North America, and they stopped production April 2001. I'm used to the 2020s
Yeah,
and April 2001.
yep.
Um, but so yeah, they actually stopped production of the Dreamcast 5 months before the GameCube was released in
There you go.
Japan.
Yeah, that sounds consistent with what I remember. I don't even like. I think I got I certainly got my Dreamcast after that, or very close to then.
Yeah,
Yeah, I wonder how. Like, did they still make games for a while, or maybe like we all knew it was dead? I think it was
I
very
don't know.
obvious. Yeah, the system wasn't
Yeah,
really going to take off.
like if you consider that they released it about 6-ish months before the PlayStation 2 was released, and then they canceled it like about a year later. They must have just seen like PlayStation 2 had so much momentum there was no hope of
Yeah,
doing anything.
I wonder. I don't really know the economics of video game console design, but like 10 million systems. I mean, obviously, if that was Nintendo or someone coming out with that, that would be a failure. I mean, I'm sure it was a failure, but like, did they lose
Hmm.
money? Like, was
They
that like,
must they must have. Well, I think they were losing. I think the stance with a lot of the companies is that they used to sell the consoles at a loss, hoping that they were going to make it all back on the software licensing. And I think Dreamcast had a really big piracy problem.
yes, yes. I remember figuring out how to make that whatever they call it, the boot disk, and then you were good to go with anything. It's almost like they didn't even bother trying to put any sort of real protection in there.
No, yeah, that's the way I understood it
Yeah,
because it was just a regular CD
yeah.
drive.
Yep. So how about that Xbox? um,
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that's all the extent of my memories right there. Is just that I had a few people that I knew that owned it and talked about how great Halo was. I think so. At the time, I was in college, um, and then we used to play a lot of Battlefield 1942. Not even the full game, but just the demo
mhm,
in our computer lab at school. So we would have like a full 16 people playing that at once,
mhm.
and it was so much fun, man. Uh, and it's mouse and keyboard. First person shooter with mouse and keyboard is great. And so I had a friend that was really into Halo, and he tried to convince us to play that. And so we loaded that up in the computer lab, and I feel like we got a night out of it, and just nobody was nearly as hooked as Battlefield 1942, and so we just all reverted to that again.
I Yeah, that's not at all surprising. I feel like it was very clicky back then. Even now, people are like they play this game and or they play that game. But at the time, there was definitely a big thing because that was a big Xbox thing, right? Was bringing these computer games to console, and
Mm,
then everyone had to deal with using the controller. And I remember a lot of people actually really liked the mapping they did with the controller. And then, of course, a lot of people didn't. I certainly I was never really a PC gamer, so I didn't really know what I was missing. But since I wasn't really into that kind of game anyway, it
mm.
wasn't like I didn't really get hooked too much. In the case of Halo, in all honesty, I never really did figure out what the big deal was. It was fine. My friends played it, so I played it, but it was like, sure, whatever. At the time, I mean, I think I'm getting a reputation, especially with you, for like rejecting any game that is like deeply
It's
story
got more
based
than
or yeah.
32 bits.
That too, right? But at the time, like I really liked games that were more like story and like JRPGs and stuff. And Halo to me, it's like it looks ugly and it's just I don't know, just there wasn't a lot of appeal for what I was in for me and
Yeah,
considering what I was into at the time.
yeah. But GameCube, that one is a little bit more interesting to me. Um, as I said, I actually only knew one person that was interested in that, but he was my roommate, and so before I owned the console, he had Smash Bros, and we would just constantly be playing that at his house or in his room.
Yep. Did you play the Nintendo 64 one?
No, no.
I feel like most people didn't. Like, I don't know. There was a melee set up at my company. I feel like every tech company has a melee setup. But
Yep,
anyway,
yep. We did
yeah,
that too.
it's such a thing. But anyway, they also had a Nintendo 64 set up, and there was people who were like diehard fans of that and would only play that. And this is another case of like you're either a melee person or you're a Nintendo 64 person, which I'm completely unable to understand because I just don't like that game that much. I mean, melee I have to, even though I love the game, I have to admit it's kind of broken in many ways. Like I think if they were to go and remake it today, there's a lot of balancing they could do, but the 64 one is just
Well,
like broken beyond belief.
I mean, I think Melee may be broken for people who are like super into it,
mm.
but I think that for the casual person that like didn't go like hyper into the strategies and stuff, it was just a very fun game.
Maybe that's fair. Yeah. Yeah. um, I also like the game. I talk about it all the time. It's actually one of my favorite games. So I'm not gonna. I wouldn't consider myself. I guess I would consider myself someone who's very into it. Probably not someone who's like championship level good or anything. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's hard to come back to earth and say that it's not broken. But yeah, Melee was fantastic. I think actually Melee, uh, like if you look at system sales and game sales, it was one of those games. It must have sold 5 million or something. I'm guessing. Like it just felt like one of the need to own games. So it probably a significant proportion of people that actually bought a GameCube went on to buy that game, right?
Probably, yeah.
I mean,
Or maybe it's just that no, I guess people aren't still buying it. They are pirating it quite a bit now, aren't they? For the
I don't know.
competitions.
Maybe I feel like having like a genuine disc is still kind of a thing for a lot of those, but it's definitely partially for like the fact that people are seeking it for competitions and stuff. It's so expensive now. it's definitely. I mean, of course, the ROMs and stuff are out there, so I'm sure people are doing that. I don't really know. Yeah, good
I'm
question.
I'm, I'm trying to find sales information,
I
but
feel like it was like 5 million, and the system was 22, which is 1 in 4. I don't know. I feel like the whole story with GameCube actually was like the first party titles, right? Just because Nintendo had so much
yeah.
issues getting third party support. But then, of
Well,
course, like always, Nintendo's first party titles were really good. So if you own the system, that's your gateway to those games, right?
Well, I mean, that's actually something that's surprising me looking through the list of top games. So, but just before I discuss that, so Smash was the fastest selling GameCube game
Hmm.
with 358,000 plus units sold the first week.
Okay.
Um, and so by the end, it's been estimated that at one point in time, 70% of all GameCube owners have owned it.
70%. Wow. Okay. Yep. Okay.
Um, but so that's actually one thing that was surprising me when I started looking through the list of GameCube games is like when you look at the Xbox, there's a very clear list of like first person shooters like Grand Theft Auto, like Ninja Gaiden, car games, Star Wars games. Like there's a good variety in like at least the top 10.
Hmm.
Then in the top 20 we start getting into like a lot of NFL. Four to
Right.
the
Yep.
four to the next 10 are NFL games. But when you look at the GameCube, there's like so the top 10 are Metroid Prime.
Was number
Uh,
one. Wow.
yep. Resident Evil 4,
Hmm.
Legend of Zelda, Legend of Zelda,
Hmm.
Legend of Zelda. Madden, Soul Calibur, Beautiful Joe, more and NFL, Eternal Darkness. And then once you're at number 11, it starts becoming like or I guess once you get to number 20, it's just like increasingly sports, like EA games.
Really?
Like
That list
there's
really surprises me. What about like Mario Sunshine?
Mario Sunshine was number 14, right
Huh.
after Smash.
I would have expected a top 10 list that was exclusively Nintendo.
No, the close, but not quite. No,
Hmm.
the top 5. No, not even the top
I
5
mean, you
because number
list
2
like,
is Resident Evil.
yeah, that was kind of. Sorry, what was number one?
The top one was Metroid Prime.
Metroid Prime. Yeah. Okay. 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 Okay.
And then the 3 Zeldas I named were Twilight Princess, Wind Waker, and the Legend of Zelda Collector's Edition, which was a combination of Ocarina and Majora.
It's funny that Twilight Princess was released for GameCube and Wii, and the GameCube version sold that well to be in their top 10 list.
Yeah. Well, actually, to be fair, I'm looking at Metacritic. I'm looking at the
Oh,
top
okay.
scores, not the top
Ah,
sales.
okay, okay. Now the list makes sense. Although Metroid Prime, I mean, I liked that game. I didn't
I
love it.
really hated that game. That
Yeah.
that that was like my Final Fantasy 8 for GameCube.
I mean, I didn't really hate it, and I played it with people, and it was interesting. And kind of their approach had some unique things about it. I thought I didn't fall in love with it. I didn't even finish it. I didn't hate it. What did you hate?
Well, to me it was kind of the same problem with Zelda. Like I really loved Metroid 1 and Zelda 1, Metroid 2 and Zelda 2, Metroid 3 and Zelda 3. Like I loved all 6 of those games. And then they made the move into 3D and I did not embrace it at all. I did not enjoy Ocarina of Time. I did not enjoy Metroid Prime. I found the navigation so clunky going around in the 3D space. I found the that era of 3D graphics, like the polygons were just so raw and crisp in a bad way.
It's funny because you can revisit, or personally, I can revisit like really old 2D games, even like Atari.
Mm,
Like, yeah, it looks like shit. Yeah, it totally does. But it's almost got this like silly charm or something. But like early 3D games, I
yeah,
totally hear you. Like, it's very hard to go back to.
like
PlayStation One has some gems in that area for sure. But um, it's funny. Sorry, I don't know if you had a thought to finish.
no, I mean, just with the Metroid game, it was like I don't know. There's a combination of them learning how to make a 3D game, and even the music, I didn't enjoy it at all. It was like much more like electronic sort of stuff. Like I don't know. I guess it's not fair to complain about electronic music when the precursor was chiptunes, which I thoroughly enjoyed. But I feel like the chiptunes provoked the imagination in the same way that the pixel art did,
Mhm.
where you got to like kind of imagine whether these were guitars and stuff, as opposed to it's clearly synthesizer.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's fair. I'm not. I tried to avoid touching on that, but definitely at the time, to me, it was like I was having a lot of the same feelings. I guess like I was seeing all my beloved series move to 3D and never be the same, and then to me, they were effectively different games now. And so, if you didn't like the new version, that's it. You're done, right? Like even just look at Mario, right? I guess Mario kind of stuck with the like they still make the 2D stuff. Um, but at the time, they weren't making that, right? It felt like this was what Mario was going to be from now on forever. And so, if you didn't like
Yeah,
Mario 64, if you didn't like Mario Sunshine, well, okay, sorry, but
yeah,
your Mario game, your love of Mario games is done. For Metroid, I guess for me, I it didn't even feel like Metroid anymore, right? Like now
yeah,
it's not even a Nintendo developed game. Like I think
yeah.
they had it developed by some Australian company or something. It's almost just like
No,
here's the
Texas.
property. Sure, right? I mean, here's the property, which I don't even know that like with Metroid, the property is so much like what made the games interesting to me. Like I liked the cave exploring and power up
Yeah,
system and everything. Like I didn't really care about like Samus and her amazing story. Like who cares? I
yeah,
just
yeah,
didn't really care. And so to take that and have that be what is Metroid and have it just be this first person game to me was very very like jarring. Like it didn't feel like a Metroid game at all. It's totally
yeah.
zero. That said, I guess uh, we played partially through it at least. I think I my friends played through it and I kind of was there for a lot of it. I don't know. It was fine. I
I
wasn't in love with it. I wouldn't defend it. Like everything you're saying kind of rings true with me. I just didn't hate it, I guess.
with how much of the mechanics in that game was like scanning stuff and
Mm-hmm.
getting story.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious how big of an influence that had on like the whole modern walking sim.
I mean, it was a popular game, so it definitely there must be some lingering influence in like the people that have since grown up and joined the industry and are making things. So it's very possible.
Like like there's enough people making games these days where like it's a 3D first person game with like nothing except getting the story, that like maybe this was an influence for them. I don't know. Um,
Yeah, maybe that's
they're
funny. I
like, you
mean,
know what, Metroid Prime would have been great if they just didn't make you shoot at stuff.
yeah, right. You just scanned for story. You just had to find things to scan.
Um,
But I
Crap, I had a thought along those lines. What were you about to say?
I was about to say I don't even think you didn't give your GameCube list. I guess
No,
I didn't
so
either.
well, so yeah, the three that I remember enjoying the most,
Hmm.
and I guess this goes back to, well, okay, so the first one is Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes, which again, like I'm saying with the Xbox, the only one of the games I played was the Metal Gear, and I played that on PlayStation 2. I feel like even though this is a remake of the original Metal Gear game that was, Metal Gear Solid that was
Hmm.
on PlayStation 1,
Hmm.
I feel like this is the good version. Uh,
Interesting. I was sorely disappointed with Twin Snakes.
I felt like it's been so long since I've played it that it's hard to give it a fair critique, but I
Right.
feel like whatever it was that they had done with the controls and stuff was just, it felt a lot better to me, a lot more smooth.
I have the same problem where I kind of can't remember. I I remember feeling like the controls were better, but something was a little off with like the flavor or something. Like I remember playing through the first one on PlayStation and like loving every moment. And this one just I mean it's hard to recapture that spark, I guess, which is
Yeah.
something it's not really fair, but like they changed the music, which I loved the music in the original and they
Hmm.
like I don't know, just some of the parts just felt like more moody in the original. Maybe it was like that like what I was just complaining about, that shitty polygon
Yeah.
bullshit that the PlayStation was even better at. But like here, it kind of worked. I don't know what the
Yeah.
hell am I talking about. But like I just maybe it was the music, and I was pissy about that the most. I don't
Yeah.
know. It wasn't my personal favorite take on the game, I guess.
Yeah. So I only had the three games that
Mm,
I was putting into my favorites, and so Twin Snakes was one of them, and then the other two go back to what you were saying about like how every tech company had like the melee
hmm
setup, is like that. my roommate and we played tons of Smash. I later moved out and bought my own GameCube, and then my new roommate and I played tons of Smash. Eventually, when I finished college, I started bringing my GameCube to work, and we hooked it up to the projector in our meeting room, and we would play a little bit of Smash there. But then we also played Double Dash.
Yeah.
Like every lunch, we played Double Dash. I'd like quickly go to Subway, grab a sandwich, come back, and play some Double Dash.
Mario Kart Double Dash.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked that game. I liked it a lot, actually. I liked. Did you play the? I don't want to get too off topic. Did you play the DS one?
No.
The DS one is considered, I think, by many to be the best Mario Kart, or one of the best. And it was basically Double Dash kind of refined a little bit.
Nice.
And so that's the one where my heart kind of goes, I guess, if I think of like my favorite Mario Kart. But definitely the GameCube one got a lot of things right. I like that game a lot.
It's not super off topic because we got a little bit of time left, and DS is the next system on our list.
Indeed,
Uh,
indeed. Well, let me touch on my GameCube memories then, I guess. Definitely Melee. I mean, I still play Smash Brothers Melee now, so I mean that's obviously my favorite game on the system. Did you say you hated Wind Waker?
I've never tried Wind Waker. I was too opinionated to give it a shot at the time, and I just really did not enjoy the look of the fake hand drawn animation.
This is the one that the creators actually thought was closest to their original vision.
Yeah.
I don't know about the specifics of the animation or whatever, but certainly the kind of like the way the character was portrayed and so forth.
I was going to animation school at the time, and I was like getting brainwashed by all of the animators who weren't into games, they were into film, and I was just like, no, Disney is the way to go. Uh, and it's like, as I'm seeing all these beautiful Joes and Wind Waker and stuff that's coming out with toon shading, I was just like, look how trash that is compared to hand drawn animation. How can they deign to try to kill our industry? And like,
Awesome. I mean, I didn't have that perspective, I guess. I found the game. I didn't love it to death, but I enjoyed it. I mean, I would certainly call it out as like a favorite amongst the GameCube titles. It's funny you mentioned Beautiful Joe. I actually forgot about that one. That was fun, kind of, I guess, but it was very. I would call it like a groundbreaking game. Just like with what GameCube had to offer, it was a cool addition to the collection to have Beautiful Joe, which was this fun platformer, I guess.
yeah.
But anyway, yeah, okay. Why don't we just head into DS land then?
Sure. So yeah, I guess you enjoyed Mario Kart a lot for that.
It's weird because DS is like a system I had and a system I played a whole bunch of games for and a system that I remember fondly. But it's like maybe there's like just kind of less particular standout titles for me.
Mm.
And so I would definitely call out Mario Kart. Like me and my wife, there's like many, 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 many nights we just play Mario Kart for like 4 hours or something insane. And she's actually very good at the game. It's one of the games she plays. And like it's a really good iteration in the Mario Kart series. It's a very good like the multiplayer is very good. I mean, it kind of sucks. You need two cartridges, two systems, that typical portable multiplayer bullshit you had to deal with at the time with like DS, 3DS, whatever. I guess it's kind of still that way. Anyway, whatever. But actually, no. DS that was neat. You could do it with one cartridge, but the person who didn't have the cartridge in the system kind of got the degraded experience where they're forced to choose one specific character. And maybe that was it. We eventually acquired two cartridges, and then it was way more fun. I remember that. But definitely, the Mario Kart game was a lot of fun. If I recall, I feel like you weren't a huge fan of the Castlevanias for the system. Is that? Am I remembering that right? I
I
personally liked them a
I
lot. So
No, I mean, I have to remind myself which ones were exclusively DS
I didn't know they
because,
were on multiple systems.
well, because it could play Game Boy Advance games,
Oh, okay.
and I didn't have a Game Boy Advance, and then I've recently played some on the 3DS, so I don't
It's
completely
all
remember.
blurring together. I remember it
Yeah.
was kind of obvious. I feel like the jump from Game Boy Advance to DS was fairly big, like graphically and stuff. And so I played them all in order, and I played the Game Boy Advance ones and enjoyed them. And then the DS one was like, whoa, it's all like
So So I,
cartoony and crazy.
yeah, so I never played Dawn of Sorrow.
Oh, really?
I wasn't
Dinosaur
a
was fun.
fan. I wasn't a fan of Aria of Sorrow,
Hmm.
so I felt like I'm not really excited to get into more of the same period.
Gotcha.
Um, and then I had Order of Ecclesia and Portrait of Ruin both on my to play lists, like basically since they were new, and I never played them until like 2 years ago.
Hmm.
Or I guess it was last year. And I enjoyed them both. I thought they were both excellent. I think I. Th- it's hard to remember which was which. I think Order of
That's the
Ecclesia.
problem with the whole series, to be honest. It's kind of it does blur together. The Game Boy Advance ones blur together for me.
Yeah. Well, I think Portrait of Ruin was interesting. It's like you've got two characters and you can switch between them,
Right.
and it actually was a pretty interesting game. I enjoyed that one quite a bit.
Hmm.
Order of Ecclesia, the way that started off, I really didn't enjoy it because it was just like brutal difficulty.
Remind me which was which. I'm
So Order of Ecclesia is, I think, the first one where you're a character that doesn't have a whip,
right. Okay.
and so you're a I mean, I feel like this was kind of the precursor to the Bloodborne game because you're a female character who's like trying to. You've been like experimented on by alchemists, and you have to go through and kind of figure out how to, I don't know, save humanity or something.
You know, it's funny. I really enjoyed the games, but I just vaguely remember them. I mean, when did they come out? It was like 2001, 2002, like early 2000s, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't remember the like. I remember playing them. I remember like I can envision playing them and the way the game played. I just don't remember the story or the characters. One of them had Soma, right? And then
yeah.
Soma came back.
That's the Sora game, Sorrow games.
Yeah. I remember
Um,
those ones a little more.
so Portrait of Ruin was pretty good. It was like a vampire who was, had magic that involved portraits, so you could, or paintings, so
Yeah.
you could go into the paintings, and you actually fought Richter at one point, I think, to like unlock the power of the whip because you weren't a true Belmont. Um, uh, uh, Order of Ecclesia, I've seen that compared to Dark Souls, where it was just like had really brutal difficulty. So it didn't feel that fun to me because I ended up spending some of the early game just like grinding to level my character up so that I could take more damage.
Yeah, that's never fun.
Um, it's
But
weird.
but I think you said
Go ahead.
Bloodborne. Did you mean Bloodstained?
Well, no, I said blood stained. Yeah, I meant blood stained.
Okay.
Yeah. Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, the
Yeah.
new Igarashi.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, what I was about to say is I feel like I've always been a really late adopter with everything.
Hmm.
Like the GameCube was interesting for me because like my roommate had that, and so I was able to play it kind of at the time through that. But then when I got around to buying it, it was kind of the PlayStation 3 was already coming out. So it ended up being like I mostly played Double Dash and mostly played Melee just over and over and over at work,
Hmm.
and I didn't really get into too many of the things like. So it's kind of interesting. I did the same with the DS where I didn't get it at a time where anyone else was using it, so I never got to play like any of the multiplayer like Mario Kart stuff.
Hmm.
So I used it largely for single player experiences. Like I ended up picking up Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon, which I think was like a remake of one of the originals.
Right.
And I loved that. Like that, I think was my introduction to Fire Emblem, if not on the
Interesting.
Game Boy Advance.
Okay.
Um, but what I was using it for a lot by that point was homebrew stuff. I didn't have a mobile phone or anything, so I remember I had the DS at around the time when I was graduating, and because of homebrew, I was able to put whatever I wanted on it. So if I was ever on an airplane, I would read ebooks
On the
on the
DS?
DS.
Wow. Awesome.
Um, like I used that as, I think, a music player.
You reminded me. I bought a. It wasn't a homebrew thing. It was like an official release, but I actually bought like a library book or something, and it had a
Yeah.
bunch of like books on it. And I've done that, which is really funny. Like on a plane, like reading books on the DS. Anyway,
Yeah,
sorry.
and the same with my job, like, because I worked as an animator, like, part of getting a job is having a demo reel,
Hmm.
more so than a resume, and I remember putting my demo reel onto my DS and, like, I went on a trip at one point and was, like, showing people, or maybe it wasn't a trip, maybe it was just, like, an industry event, but I remember pulling my DS out of my pocket and showing my demo reel to people on that.
That
Um
is incredibly awesome.
and then there was an app that you could actually buy for the homebrew, which later became officially released on the 3DS, called Colors,
Okay.
and it was a like a painting app that you could use the stylus for, and you could paint stuff, and it would actually like keep track of your brush strokes, so that when you were done, you could watch a time lapse of what you had painted.
Oh, neat. Yeah. Okay.
So it's like that was the primary use that I got out of my DS, was like the homebrew stuff.
I didn't have that experience, but I think that's really cool. Like, I actually think that's really cool. So my friend and I were really excited about DS, and we bought it like as soon as it came out. I think we got it, we like imported it when it was only out in Japan. We were so excited about it. And then I bought the light version when it came out. Like, it was a big system for me, actually. Um, it would be weird not to mention, so I'll just mention it. There was a Mahjong game for DS called Yakuman DS, and I played the shit out of that game. I mean, like, if I was to list games that I've put the most hours in across like all of game history, definitely that's one of them. And so that was kind of a big game for me. I guess I'd call it a favorite. Like, I liked it, but I got it with the DS and just played the shit out of it. Um, uh, Another thing I'll mention, I'm curious, did you play the DS Zeldas?
Yeah. So I can't again remember, because the two systems kind of blend together, whether it's DS or 3DS. Which ones are you talking about specifically?
The 3DS Zelda is the sequel to Link to the Past,
Yeah,
and
I played that one and I
that
liked
one
it.
was good. Everyone loved that one, right? Most people anyway. The DS,
Oh
the
no, that
two
was
DS
Phantom
ones,
Hourglass, and
yes, and the train one.
I played Phantom Hourglass and really didn't enjoy it, and so I just didn't bother with Spirit Tracks.
Spirit Tracks, that was what it was called. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't. Which one was first? I think it uh, I think it was Phantom Hourglass. It was first, right? Definitely, yeah. And to me, the game didn't make sense. Like, it was very obvious they were just taking Zelda and smashing it into this like DS world, and so they had to use all the gimmicks, and so you had to touch the screen and blow on things and stuff. And I really disliked the controls, and I really disliked everything about the game. But it felt like an experiment in a way. Like, it felt like a clumsy attempt to, I guess, encourage people to use the DS features. Or maybe at the time they thought that the DS features, like the touchscreen and stuff, were so novel that like the game would be fun.
Yeah,
So, okay, got it, hated the game, whatever. But then they made a sequel with the same controls and stuff. It just blew my
yeah,
mind. Like, I guess other people must have enjoyed it because they made the sequel. But to me, to make two of these games was just crazy. I was always grumpy that they never made um, a sequel to Link to the Past. I mean, yeah, I know they made Link Between Worlds, but Super Nintendo was the only system that didn't get two Zeldas. And
mm,
I really thought that the Super Nintendo Zelda was such an excellent game, they could have made another one. And so it was really weird to me that they made a single Super Nintendo Zelda, but then they made two of those miserable, awful DS ones.
yeah.
So I guess I'd call that out as games that I played through them for some reason, but I totally hated.
Which, I mean, we completely ignored the Zelda on GameCube that I played recently, which was Twilight Princess.
Again,
Um,
that's a Wii game to me. It came out
yeah,
in the Wii era. I,
I
I I remember it was on GameCube, but anyway, if you want to call it out as a GameCube game,
well, what's interesting is the GameCube version is the official version,
are you
because
sure? I remember
yeah,
it was a big title for Wii. Like, wasn't it a
it was
launch
a big
title?
title, and yeah, it was. But the interesting thing is that the Wii version is a mirror version of the GameCube version,
I
because
see.
Link is left-handed and he uses his sword with his left hand. And for whatever reason, they decided that that was not acceptable for people to use the nunchucks and control Link's sword with his left hand. So they switched it so that people could use the right hand. And so they mirrored everything in the game. They mirrored the animation and the levels, everything.
They probably. So I've heard that. I have heard that. They probably. It's probably because since the majority of people are right-handed, they figured that's the one people want to shake the stick with, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know if I've heard of, like, when you say it's official, is that like some Nintendo stance or something?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know about the Nintendo stance. I don't think they gave a crap one way or the other. That's why they just mirrored it. Um,
Clearly.
but the fan version is that the GameCube one is the best one. Supposedly the controls are a lot better as
Well,
well.
yeah, I mean, it came out after, if I recall. So I feel like to me, in my mind, it's like a Wii game that came out for Wii and was a big deal at the time. And all the people who actually bought Wii, which there were many, many, they now had their own Zelda, and it was awesome. But for people who don't have Wii, here's this GameCube version. And now I feel like, opinion-wise, like people tend to accept that that's the better version. There was other things about it people liked. I think the buttons got like mapped in a way that made it much easier to control, etc.
Yeah.
Is that the one you played?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So part of it is that you've got like complete camera control on the GameCube.
Mm.
So like I'm seeing why the GameCube version is better. The map is oriented correctly. You have complete camera control. Combat controls are more precise, and you don't have to worry about any potential control confusion if you're left-handed.
Yeah.
The Wii version's better because the archery hookshot controls are more precise. The roll goal minigame and fishing minigame control better, and you're
Fuck
able
mini
to
games.
and you're able to equip 3 items at a time instead of 2, and it supports 16:9.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. To me, the Wii game again was like, I never really understood the shaking the controller to swing the sword. Like, why not just press a button, right? Like, me with like input lag and stuff. Like, it just felt strictly inferior to have this weird system. Because I mean, of
Yeah,
course, it's delayed, right? You need the game to recognize the gesture and then swing the sword. And so, as you swung the Wiimote, like Link wasn't in sync with what you were doing. It's
right.
especially like now that it's 2021 and we have VR games and stuff, and they sync really well. Like you can see your own hand swinging an object around in real time. To go
Yeah,
back and play the Wii game and swing and wait for Link to basically see, or wait for the system to see that you've swung, and then Link swings. Like, just give me a button. What's the difference, right? It doesn't make me feel like I'm swinging a sword. And I
yeah,
felt that way at the time. And so this was another case of, in my opinion, Nintendo taking one of their flagship series and like jamming a gimmick in to align with the hardware releases they had. And so I never really liked that. I would have totally accepted the GameCube version personally.
yeah. Yeah. Zelda was something that kind of between the Super Nintendo and the 3DS was kind of just like a nothing series, in my opinion.
Nothing serious. Yeah, I'm a less of a Zelda fan than a great majority, I would say, almost of people, of Nintendo fans, especially. I really, really, really liked. Actually, I guess we align here. I really liked the start of the series, like the first, I guess, 4 games.
Yeah,
1, 2, and then Link to the Past, and then Link's Awakening.
yeah.
And I mean, I liked Wind Waker. I definitely liked Wind Waker,
Y-
but I
y-
didn't like love it.
I feel like you've been a proponent of the Oracle games too.
Yeah, yeah, those were good. I mean, I don't know. A lot of the Zelda fans, they're like in love with like the music and the characters and everything. Like the Oracle games were fun, but I
Yeah,
didn't find them particularly memorable in that way. Like I wouldn't buy an art book, and I wouldn't like put posters on the wall or anything. They were just
yeah,
fun games. They were actually really fun games.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll give them a good score in my book.
Where you were talking about the Mario games kind of being dead, like if you didn't like Mario 64,
Mm.
I think that's where they did kind of redeem themselves with the DS was when they created new Super Mario Bros.
Yeah.
And it got to go back to the 2D games.
I remember that, and I remember them coming out with it, and I feel like if they had gone and released something like that in like 1998, 1999, like at the time the mood was so like 3D
Or
is normal, 2D is
yeah,
that old stuff, get out of here, right? And yet when they came out with Mario for the DS, it felt very welcome. Like a lot of people were just like, oh, it's Mario again, sweet. And
yeah,
probably I'm assuming that the success of that title is why we still have platforming Mario games.
yeah. I guess that's your signal that we're done for the day, huh?
That's my yeah. Too bad that gets picked up. This stupid thing. I downloaded this app on my phone that beeps every hour, just because I don't know. It actually, for a lot of people, I can see that being annoying, but for me, it helps with my work day and just knowing when things are going. And
Right.
you can't mute it. It just will not mute. It doesn't mute
Nice.
with the phone, so it goes off in theaters and stuff. I should like really shut my phone off. But
Yeah,
yeah, we're on the hour, man.
nice. Yeah.
Nice indeed.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot else I have left to say on that. Just that the new Super Mario Bros. Was like my kids' introduction, kind of, to
To Mario.
playing Mario. Well, I mean, I think Mario Odyssey was his first introduction. Really, like we played a
Mm.
lot of that, and he played as Cappy.
Hmm.
So he was like too intimidated by the 3D controls and moving Mario around through 3D space. But new Super Mario Bros. Is, I think, maybe not even the first one that he played. I think we tried Mario 2, Doki Doki Panic,
Oh wow.
and he loved it conceptually, but it was a harder game,
Mm.
and he wasn't able really to do anything before losing all his lives.
Right.
Whereas New Super Mario Bros., it was easier, like distinctly easier. You collected tons of coins and gained
Yeah.
lots of lives, and there was lots
Easy
of
game.
like giant powers and mini powers and stuff that he was able to actually start playing through. That was the one that he was excited to start playing through, and suffering through death enough to persevere.
Learn a thing or two. Did you? Was it specifically the DS one? Because
Yeah.
it's a series now, right? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, he's played them too. Like
Yeah.
he really enjoyed that one on DS, and then the sequel on 3DS. The three of us as a family made it through the new Super Mario Bros. Wii U Deluxe, or whatever it's called.
I was just about to say there's actually a pretty good one on Wii U.
Yeah,
Yes,
we
indeed.
actually mentioned that in a previous podcast there, because that's one of the like family games that we played where all three of us were playing it simultaneously.
Yeah, yeah. I played it a little with my kids. My wife didn't play.
But yeah,
Cool.
that's mostly what I got for DS. Was just like I really enjoyed the late game aspect of being able to just pick up some of the finer titles as opposed to being there. They didn't offer rentals for that, did they?
DS, I don't know. I don't think so. I feel like at that era for me, GameStop was a big deal, or it was like, is it still a big deal? I don't know, but like at the time, it was like everyone would go to GameStop and buy used games or trade their games in, and where's the let's hit the local GameStop, man. Like it
Yeah,
was a thing still, kind of, at least for me. And
yeah,
so I don't remember renting DS games, but I do remember picking up a lot of used DS games.
yeah,
So that was still kind of a thing.
yeah. That to me was kind of the saddest part about that era. Was like a lot of these games I'm seeing came out 2005, 2006, 2008, 11, and stuff. I think like 2011 was around the time Blockbuster disappeared.
Yeah, by the time Blockbuster disappeared, I think I was kind of out of the rental thing. I mean, growing up, renting was from like the local convenience store, which wasn't a
Yeah,
Blockbuster, and it was long gone.
yeah.
And Blockbuster was, I don't know. I guess I just didn't have that attachment to Blockbuster. A lot of people had.
That's
Um,
that's that's where I did most of my gaming through college, was renting stuff.
Specifically from Blockbuster.
Yeah, I mean there was a Blockbuster when I was in residence. It was across the street, and then when I was in an apartment, it was like at the bottom of my building.
Oh, okay, that makes that makes sense. I had a lot of friends who seemed to have a lot of money in college, which was weird to me since that was the poorest time of my life by
Yeah,
far. But they would just buy whatever game, and so I'd just go play whatever game with them. So I had actually like a lot of access to games that way instead of renting.
yeah.
Weird. I don't know.
All right. Well, we managed much more productivity with this.
3 whole systems.
Yeah, three whole systems.
Ba bam.
Has
Cool.
anything changed with what you're playing right now? I
Um, I'm trying to think. Actually, we played some Mario Galaxy 2, which no, like we've been playing the game forever, but I just put it away for a while, and we pulled it back out, and we're at the very last stage, I think, or the last galaxy, I guess. And it was fun. I kind of don't know why I put it away for so long. I think I put it away to play Final Fantasy 9, which I have since put away, and so
yeah.
um, I will probably finish Mario Galaxy. We play with the kids; they like it. So
That yeah, I'm still playing familiar games, but that just does remind me with the GameCube. Like I never played the Mario Galaxy or Mario Sunshine back in the day.
hmm
I was really turned off Mario after Mario 64, and then so I think Mario Odyssey would have been the first 3D Mario that I had played since then.
Yep.
And Mario Odyssey is an amazing game. Like it's a really really incredibly well done game. And so since then, we bought the Galaxy and Sunshine on Switch, and have gone back, and my kids tried to play it, and I can definitely see how it's evolved. Like there's so many similar things in Odyssey that Odyssey clearly does better, that I can understand kind of why there may have been appeal back then, but it's also like really tough going back to those because mechanically they are inferior to Odyssey.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I'll have an opinion when I play Odyssey, but having not played Odyssey, I'm in the other boat where I don't feel like what I'm missing, if you will. Like assuming there's
Yeah.
something there.
I-
So to me, Galaxy is fine. I mean, if
It's
it
it's
go
it's
ahead,
kind of like if you played Mario 3 as your first Mario game and then
going
you
back
go
to
back
number
to the
one.
first one. It's like, it was a great game when it came out, but comparatively speaking, it's not as good as Mario 3.
And if you were saying this to someone who never played Mario 3,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I actually, it sounds like you didn't like Mario 64. I don't know. I
No.
find Mario 64 hard to go back to, but at the time I enjoyed it. And then I played Sunshine and thought it was okay, but Galaxy I really liked, and so I'm feeling that progression as I play through the series. So I'll have to we'll have to revisit it when I get to Odyssey, I guess.
Yeah.
Right on.
Anyway, I guess that's probably where we draw the line for the day.
Bam. All right, man. Well, I'm gonna go back to bed.
Okay. I feel like that's how we end the videos now. We're like, "Good morning, Matt," and then at the end you're like, "I'm going back to bed."
That's. I mean, I'm just being truthful.
All right.
That's the
Well,
time, the reality of being 3 time zones away, I guess.
well,
You squish
as
that one.
always, thank you for waking up and spending your morning with me,
You're welcome.
with all of us.
Nothing but the best. That's right. Cue joke about having no audience. Someday we'll be laughing about the fact we used to laugh about having no audience. That'll be
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Until next time, brother.
All right. Cheers.
See ya.